settle in these alluvial deposits along riverbeds and creek beds.
So it's like nature is already out there doing the digging for us.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool. But I'm guessing it's not as simple as just walking along the creek and picking up gemstones, right?
Definitely not. There's a bit more to it. For starters, rivers and creeks have different characteristics that influence what you might find.
Okay, I can imagine that would make a difference. What should we be looking for?
Well, rivers, they're larger, obviously, and they have stronger flow.
Right.
So they can carry heavier gemstones further. Now, creeks, they're smaller and gentler, and you'll often find better opportunities there for gem hunting after, like, heavy rainfall.
Okay.
Or during the spring thaw, when the water flow increases and kind of stirs things up a bit.
So timing is key. Speaking of timing, let's jump into those 8 tips from the article. The first one is all about the right equipment.
Right, and this is where things get really exciting. You'll need the basics, like shovels and screens and pans.
Right.
But the article also mentions using a blacklight torch.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Gemstones can glow in the dark. That changes my whole perspective on gem hunting.
Yeah, it's true. Some gemstones are what's called fluorescent. That means they glow under UV light. So imagine searching a creek bed at night with a blacklight torch,
Yeah.
Talk about a unique treasure hunt.
Okay, that's officially going on my bucket list. What's the next tip?
Well, tip number 2 is all about knowing where to look. And this one surprised me, actually. The article suggests using Google Earth to find ancient riverbeds.
You're kidding. You can find gemstones on Google Earth.
Well, not the gemstones themselves, but you can spot those areas where ancient rivers used to flow.
Okay.
And these areas, they often have rich alluvial deposits that are just waiting to be explored,
Yeah.
You might even discover a hidden gem hotspot right in your own region.
I love that. Now, that's what I call armchair exploration. So we've got our equipment, we have a potential location. What's next?
Tip number 3 is all about knowing what to look for. And this is where you need to do a little research. You need to find out what types of gemstones are common to your area.
So I can't just expect to find diamonds everywhere.
Right, exactly. And here's another interesting thing. Gemstones are often partially encased in other rock types, which makes the hunt a bit more challenging,
Yeah.
It's like a natural puzzle.
Right, and I can see how that would make the discovery even more rewarding.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we got our gear, a location. We know what gemstones we might find.
Right.
What about the actual process of finding them? How do we do that?
That's where tip number 4 comes in. And the article highlights something called panning as a particularly effective technique.
Panning, like they do for gold. I've always wanted to try that.
Exactly. It's a method that uses the density of gemstones to your advantage.
Okay.
So you scoop up some gravel, you submerge it in water, and you shake it. And the heavier gemstones settle to the bottom, while the lighter material is washed away.
So there's a chance I could find gold while I'm panning for gemstones.
It's definitely possible.
Talk about a win-win.
Right. Alluvial deposits often contain both. But before you rush out to the nearest creek with your pan, let's talk about safety. Tip number 6 is all about that.
That's a good point. What kind of safety tips should we be aware of?
Well, the article really stresses the importance of checking the weather conditions, and being aware of flash flood risks, especially when you're gem hunting in creeks.
Right.
Those creeks, they can rise really quickly after heavy rainfall, and you wouldn't want to get caught in a dangerous situation.
Yeah, definitely not worth the risk. I guess it's always better to err on the side of caution when it comes to Mother Nature.
Absolutely.
So we've covered equipment, location scouting, knowing what to look for, panning for gemstones, all while staying safe. What else is there?
Well, tip number 7, it reminds us about something that a lot of people forget about. The legal side of gem hunting.
Oh, I have a feeling this is where it gets complicated.
It can be, yeah. It all comes down to mineral rights versus surface rights.
Right.
So let's say, hypothetically, you find a stunning sapphire on public land. Sounds like a lucky find, right?
Yeah.
But what if the mineral rights for that land belong to, like, a mining company?
Right.
You might not actually be able to keep it.
Wow, I never considered that.
Yeah, so checking local regulations and getting permission beforehand is really crucial.
It's always better to be safe and legal than risk getting into trouble.
Exactly.
And it's also essential to be respectful of the environment when you're gem hunting, too.
Absolutely. The article emphasizes minimizing your impact. Avoid digging large holes or disturbing vegetation.
Right.
And properly dispose of any waste that you generate.
Makes sense. And I imagine there might be local regulations that are specific to gem hunting as well, right?
Yes, absolutely. Some areas, they might have restrictions on the types of tools that you can use or the amount of material that you can collect. It's all about, being a good steward of the land and ensuring these resources are available for future generations to enjoy.
Well said. And speaking of learning and education, that brings us back to the importance of learning from those more experienced gem hunters.
Absolutely. Think of it like having a mentor to guide you on your gem hunting journey.
Yeah.
The article mentions local gem and mineral clubs, visiting museums, and even connecting with other rock hounds online.
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
It's all about building that community and sharing knowledge, right?
absolutely.
Now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about some of the specific gemstones you might find. Remember how we talked about different geological formations producing different minerals?
Right, yeah.
So what kind of gemstones could we realistically expect to find while we're gem hunting in rivers and creeks?
Well, the type of gemstone you find, it really depends on the geology of the area. For example, if you're in an area known for volcanic activity,
Hmm.
you might find gemstones like peridot or zircon.
And those are pretty valuable, right?
They can be, yeah, depending on the quality and the size. But, even if you don't find a gemstone that's worth a fortune, there's still something incredibly satisfying about finding any gemstone in its natural state.
Yeah, it's like you're uncovering a hidden secret,
Like
a piece of Earth's history.
Exactly. And each gemstone, has its own unique story to tell. For instance, the article mentioned finding Australian sapphires by panning.
Wow.
Did you know that sapphires are actually a variety of the mineral corundum?
No, I didn't know that.
Oh,
So are rubies also corundum?
that's right. Rubies and sapphires are both corundum, but they just have different trace elements that give them those distinct colors. Rubies get their red color from chromium,
Oh.
while sapphires get their blue, green, yellow, or other colors from trace amounts of iron, titanium, or other elements.
It's incredible. So the same mineral can produce such a variety of gemstones just based on tiny differences in its composition.
Right.
It really highlights the diversity of the mineral kingdom.
It really does. And that diversity, it's reflected in the gemstones you can find in rivers and creeks. The article mentioned quartz crystal, chert, agate, amethyst, jasper, petrified wood, and garnets, just to name a few.
Wow, that's quite a list.
It is.
So there's really something for everyone when it comes to gem hunting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether you're looking for sparkly crystals or unique patterns in rocks, there's a treasure out there waiting to be discovered.
Absolutely. And that's part of the appeal, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
the thrill of the hunt, the anticipation of what you might find. But, gem hunting, it does require patience, observation skills, and a bit of luck.
It's not just about luck, though. It's almost like detective work.
Right.
You need to be observant, patient, and know what clues to look for.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this goes back to that tip about learning from experienced gem hunters.
Exactly. And even if you don't find a gemstone on every outing, you're still spending time in nature,
Sure.
getting some exercise and learning about the geology of your area.
Yeah, that's a great point. Gem hunting is a wonderful way to connect with the natural world and appreciate the beauty and complexity of our planet.
Absolutely.
It's like a treasure hunt with bonus benefits. But before we get carried away with all the excitement of finding gemstones,
Right.
let's talk about some of the challenges involved. The article touched on the issue of mineral rights versus surface rights, which, to be honest, always confuses me a little bit.
It's understandable. Yeah.
Can you clarify that?
Sure. Essentially, mineral rights, they refer to the ownership of the minerals that are beneath the surface of the land,
Okay.
while surface rights, that refers to the ownership of the land itself.
So even if you own a piece of land, you might not own the rights to the gemstones beneath it.
That's right. Mineral rights can be owned separately from surface rights, and they can be sold or leased to individuals or companies. So that's why it's so crucial to do your research before you start digging and make sure you have the legal right to collect gemstones. Always check with the relevant authorities, whether it's a private landowner or a government agency.
It's always better to be safe and legal
Absolutely.
than risk getting into trouble.
For sure.
And it's also essential to be respectful of the environment when you're gem hunting.
Couldn't agree more. The article emphasizes minimizing your impact on the environment.
Right.
Avoid digging large holes or disturbing vegetation, and properly dispose of any waste you generate. It's the same principle as like hiking and camping. Pack it in, pack it out.
Right. Makes sense. And I imagine there might be local regulations specific to gem hunting as well, right?
Yes, some areas might have restrictions on the types of tools you can use or the amount of material you can collect.
Right.
All about being a good steward of the land and ensuring these resources are available for future generations to enjoy.
Well said. And speaking of learning and education, that brings us back to the importance of learning from experienced rockhounds. It's like any other skill. The more you learn, the better you become. And the more you understand about gemstones, the more you'll appreciate the ones you find.
Absolutely. Learning about the geology, formation, and properties of gemstones adds another layer of depth and meaning to your gem hunting experiences.
So where can people go to learn more about gemstones?
Well, the article mentioned museums
Yeah.
and local gem and mineral clubs.
Yeah, those